A busy Friday and a lot to get to. We begin with the Democratic rebuttal to that GOP memo alleging surveillance abuses by the FBI on a Trump campaign advisor. The counter memo will be released. President Trump addressed reporters about it earlier.
It's going to be released soon.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to release a letter soon.
More now from Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Hi, Catherine.
Well, thanks, Kimberly. At that camera spray in the Oval Office, the president was asked about the Democrat memo, and he promised developments. Under these long-standing congressional rules, the president has 5 days to voice objections about the memo, which technically brings us to today or Monday, counting business days. That means there are a handful of options for the president. He can declassify the memo as is, declassify the memo with limited redactions, or ask the Democrats to redraft the memo before the president will consider it again. White House officials have asked all parties, including the FBI and Justice Department, to review the memo and make their recommendations about its release public. What needs to be redacted or blacked out. The Democrats' version, drafted by the ranking Democrat on the committee, Adam Schiff, is more than twice as long at 10 pages versus the Republican staff memo at 4 pages. And we understand the Democrats' version really kind of does a deep dive with the sources and the methods, and we were told that redactions are likely. What to watch is whether Democrats make the case that Christopher Steele, the former British spy who researched the dossier, had a track record with federal investigators for credibility. Republicans counter the FBI cut ties with Steele over his media contacts because he lied about them, but this information was never shared with that national security court that granted the FISA warrant for Carter Page. Kimberly.
All right, Catherine, thanks so much for that update. All right, a developing story. So now we're waiting for the counter memo, Greg. You are sitting there with anticipation.
I was going to say, it's great to see you. I'm so glad you're back. It's been like 3 days.
I'm glad the door didn't kill you.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I am back.
Greg, how we've missed you so.
Yes, yes. All right.
So little.
So, I'm out of here.
It's Friday.
I'm going to walk into a door.
Don't let the door hit you in your head on the way out. Go ahead.
So you release the Democratic memo, then the Republicans should release a counter response, and then the Democrats should do it. Keep doing this it's like a partisan version of rock, paper, scissors, and just keep going forever and ever and ever, because that's what it is. This is basically now kind of a political he said, she said. It is it's in the mess when you spent a year focusing on Russian collusion of a particular kind, the Republican kind. You can't just dismiss another kind of Russian collusion on the Democratic side, which is this. You've got a British spy delivering anonymous, unsourced information to the government that is then used to spy on a citizen. If that's not collusion, I'm 6'5". So I suggest declare a tie. Our Russian collusion narrative cancels out your Russian collusion narrative, and we all go to Fridays and get drunk on bubblegum daiquiris.
Do they have those?
Yes, I checked.
Oh, my gosh.
After the show.
That sounds it's the after the show.
Yes.
Can I share my theory?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, release the damn memo right now.
Yes.
No redactions. Get it out there. It's going to get out there eventually anyway. Let's stop this conversation. It is so boring, so tedious. And here's my theory. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
We'll bring it up. Pull it up.
So here you have. See it? So here is Steele. We know that Steele was working for the Hillary Clinton campaign, right? So here's Steele. Steele produces the dossier. The dossier leads in part to the FISA warrant implicating Carter Page and others. What if Steele, rather than generating all this information, is being fed information by the Clinton campaign? This is a very connected group of people. So would that be the bitter irony if you have the Clinton campaign feeding information to their employee, Christopher Steele, who produces the dossier that produces the FISA warrant? So here you have, do you see the implication here?
Right. Yes.
Here you have Clinton and the campaign event, and I have,
the FBI's in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
I think the FBI is out in the cold here someplace. I don't know what the FBI knows.
You didn't.
But what I am implying here is this is when the Clinton campaign seeks to fund Christopher Steele. Now they are bankrolling opposition research, producing the dossier, so far politics, but then resulting in a FISA warrant. I think that this is a possibility.
Geraldo, what you're saying is the real story, and so much of the media and even the Republicans are focusing on the FISA warrant, what was used. You're saying the real story is HRC. I will say this. I live with someone who has seen the Democrat memo, and I've looked at all the reports, and the reports are saying that the memo from the Democrats is not necessarily discounting or undermining any of the things that were in the Republican memo. So in my opinion, it's just about, like you said, we have you put one out, we'll put one out. We'll just start to muddy the waters. We'll start to just confuse people, and we'll put purposely, as Trey Gowdy said, we'll put classified information in methods and sources so that the president has to redact it, and it looks like he's covering.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. Catherine Herridge even said the Democratic memo includes a deep dive into sources and methods. Think of the irony of that. So Democrats howled because the Republican memo was going to expose all these sources and methods, which it never did in 4 pages. The whole thing was released without any redactions. Now, they intentionally put sources and methods in, which we know are the most vulnerable and dangerous part of anything that's classified because it undermines our ability to get that intelligence. Then Trump has to redact the intelligence agencies to be actually responsible. Then the Democrats will say, well, you've redacted it for political reasons, all the while wanting, as you said, and Greg, to muddy the waters, to make it look like it's a he said, she said. Why don't the Democrats care about the other side of this coin? Why don't the Democrats care about Hillary Clinton? Why don't they care about the obvious evidence of collusions with intelligence agencies? They don't. They care about only one narrative.
To me, Major, the key is that Mueller seems to be concentrating on everything that happened after the purported collusion. Obstruction, lying to federal authorities. Nothing about collusion, everything about what happened since the alleged collusion, because he has nothing on collusion, or we would have heard about it a year into this. I think that at some point, fairness demands that this thing have an end in sight. It's just unfair for the president of the United States to live with this cloud and shadow government hanging over us.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going back to the cancel it out.
Do it yourself chalkboard, Glenn. I mean, Geraldo.
Send that to Mueller.
Okay. And I think you better explain who you're sleeping with, Rachel. Because people don't know what this.
Not Adam Schiff.
I'm not sleeping with Adam Schiff. Or, I'm sleeping with Sean Duffy. Much cuter.
Congressman.
Okay, all right. Well, now to those texts from the top Democrat in charge of the Senate's Russia investigation. It's been revealed that Mark Warner messaged a lobbyist for a Russian oligarch in an effort to reach dossier author Christopher Steele. President Trump reacting to the news, saying Warner did not want a paper trail on a private meeting in London he requested with Steele of fraudulent dossier fame, all tied into crooked Hillary. But some of Warner's colleagues are defending him, like Republican Marco Rubio, who says the senator fully disclosed his texts with the Intelligence Committee months ago, and they had zero impact on the panel's work. What do you guys make of this, Greggins?
Well, they say the texts look bad when they're out of context, but now all news is out of context. Every time you end up taking something like that and putting it in context, it's no longer news. That's what we're dealing with everything these days is we're pulling something out. And, I could see both sides of this, that maybe it's nothing. But he didn't bring a Republican with him when he went and investigated this. He did it he said, like, this is, I'm doing this for the good of the country. But he did it kind of privately on his own. But the fact is, people did know about this. And it goes back to this kind of tribal. It's a tribal thing now with these parties. If you say this text is worse than Watergate, there's a guy just like you saying that the Trump-Russian collusion thing is worse than Watergate. So these are mirror images, and I think if you clear out all this kind of tribal partisanship, it'll become much clearer, and we can laugh about it.
It still stinks, though. So this is March of 2017 when the outreach occurs. Directly from the ranking member of the Senate Intelligence Committee to a Russian lobbyist with connections to Christopher Steele. He doesn't notify the committee until 6 months later when he realizes, ooh, this will look stinky if it ever comes out. Yet the fellow members of his committee who are, I don't know, a lot of backslapping and looking out for each other are willing to apologize for him. The reality is he went solo. He wanted to go solo, off the grid, no paper trail, straight to Christopher Steele. Through the dossier, it shows you how much this unverified, dirty dossier is the center of everything.
Center of everything.
And it was used to justify unilateral outreach to Russians?
And the fact is We keep hearing how MI6, Christopher Steele, British spy, reputable, et cetera, et cetera. Is it not a fact that Christopher Steele has an obsessive hatred for Donald Trump? Correct. Is it not a fact and on the record that Christopher Steele is on the record doing everything he can do to obstruct the election of Donald Trump and now to take Trump down? I think that his personal motivations at some point demand scrutiny. He has refused to testify, as far as I know, to the Congress of the United States.
But so do Mark Warner's. And you make such a great point, because Mark Rubio said, well, I knew 4 months ago. Well, this guy, Mark Warner, was doing this months and months before that and never told anybody. And you have to wonder, why did he go rogue? If you understand how committees work, they have tons of staffers. You would never coordinate your own meeting with anybody. And you would not only have your staffers do it, you would involve the staffers of Marco Rubio, whoever else. So he was going rogue. He wanted, as he said in the text messages, no paper trail.
Even Christopher Steele wanted a paper trail.
Right.
Ironically.
But, okay, I sound like a broken record about partisanship.
And why?
But the problem with partisanship is that there is actually something in here that is worth talking about. And that is, it's not Christopher Steele could be the greatest person alive. It's not about him. It's about the unverified, undocumented information from anonymous sources. That's the problem. That's what they're basing this on. It doesn't matter who Steele is. It's the fact that he used information that was not verified to hinder or to investigate an American citizen.
Marco Rubio in this is also very interesting. Marco Rubio, Senator Burr, why are they covering for Mark Warner? What's going on? How deep is the deep state? Does it run through the Senate?
Interesting.
I'm sorry. I think it's
I don't
really
think
weird.
Rubio is part of a deep state
either.
I'm just saying, why would he cover?
Overly collegiate.
Well, or maybe he's still mad about what happened on the campaign.
I mean, if something doesn't fit into the equation or the partisan dogma, it doesn't make it deep state. Because then what that does is it pollutes
maybe it's not deep state, but maybe he's really angry still about what happened on the campaign trail. I'm just saying, why would a Republican member of this committee think it's okay for a Democrat to go meet with Russians without telling or Russian lobbyists without telling the committee? I think it's really weird.
I think he was talking about whether the text was known or not.
I know. Well, see, look at this. Look at how well-behaved Geraldo is. He's like, it's okay. We have to wrap. I love it. So good. Okay.